Welcome to Toffee TV. It's the Everton News Daily. John Joe Kenny is unlikely to remain at Schalke if Everton want to sell the player to the German side. David Wagner has been speaking today and said they simply don't have the financial power to buy the young Everton right back at the moment. He said a lot of clubs still unsure about what money, if any, they will have this summer, and we are no different. They want to extend Kenny's loan at Gelsenkirchen for another 12 months. He said he's done brilliantly, he's a great lad, scored a goal, had assists, and the fans really like him, and we want to do everything we can to keep him here on a loan basis. He said, but if Everton are looking to sell a player, then we simply won't be able to compete in the market. It's going to be an interesting decision for the 23-year-old to make, because obviously, depending on what Everton have to spend in the summer, if anything, this summer, then Kenny may find himself in with an opportunity to out Seamus Coleman, because obviously Gabriel Virant, there's a option in place to buy him for around about £12.5 million. If Everton choose not to exercise that option and he returns to Monaco, then it means that the only recognised right back we've got really would be Seamus Coleman. So it means Kenny would have an opportunity to make it his own. But it just depends whether Everton think that he's good enough to do that. He's been good for Schalke this season. So an interesting few months ahead for John Joe Kenny, that's for sure. Apparently, Everton bid €15 million for Brazilian winger Gabriel Virant after the Under-17 World Cup last year. Jorge Nicola in Brazil has said that Everton lead the race for the young wide player. Said Arsenal also very interested in him, but Palmeiras wanted more than the €15 million that Everton offered, and this is because they only own 60% of the player's rights. 40% are still owned by Santa Cruz's previous club, which means that obviously they would get 40% of any transfer fee. What can you say? Everton obviously looking in this market. Marcel Brands has made that perfectly clear when he come in, that this was a market Everton would be looking in, and looking at players. We've been linked with a couple of Argentinian young players and obviously a couple of the Brazilians, Renier Jesus being one that Everton almost had before Real Madrid took him. So there could be something in this, but certainly not at those figures, and not for an unproven young Brazilian. We wouldn't be paying anywhere near that amount of money. Yannick Bolasie has had his loan move ended at Sporting Lisbon. That's according to A Bola, the Portuguese newspaper. They've said that the league is looking as though it may not return, and they've told Bolasie he's no longer needed in Sporting, and he will return to training with Everton once it is safe to do so. Obviously, Bolasie's still with a year left on his Everton contract. He signed for a 5-year deal in 2016, one of Steve Walsh and Ronald Koeman's first signings. And he'll be back at USM Finch Farm, and maybe Carlo Ancelotti will have a look at him and assess from there, because he's our player. What do you do with him? Might become a member of Ancelotti's squad, or somebody else might come in and take him. Obviously, Crystal Palace linked with him heavily a lot lately as well, so we'll have to wait and see. Andre Gomez beat Reece James 8-0 today in the FIFA Invitational Cup, an esports game. Gomez was very modest after it, and revealed that he only actually picked up a PS4 a week ago and had a game of FIFA. Said that after training he doesn't get involved in playing FIFA like the other players. I don't know whether he's being a little bit of a shark there and winding us up, but he destroyed Reece James 8-0. And people watching have now tipped them as one of the favourites, so maybe Everton will get some silverware after all. And finally, Sky and BT are in talks with the Premier League about screening Premier League games on the free-to-air channels. This is to ensure that the social distancing measures that are in place remain, and will remain for the foreseeable future. There's some talks today and some statements today that there may not be any social gatherings of any note for the rest of this year, which means we won't be back in stadiums as football supporters until 2021, because obviously they're just only now getting onto testing vaccines for COVID-19, and that takes time to roll out and everything else. So people will be asked to socially distance. We're still currently on lockdown, and probably go on lockdown again when this one's up, but there'll be a phased return then, won't there, of of social distancing measures. In fact, they've said today that even people as young as 50-year-olds should be staying in now as well. 50 to the 69-year-old bracket have to be careful as well. The initial warnings were for over 70s, but they've now dropped that down to the 50 to 69-year-old bracket. So they're really, making sure that these social distancing measures remain in place as we try to flatten the curve of this pandemic. But what will happen is the games will return and they'll be behind closed doors, and I should imagine now that they'll all be available on free-to-air channels as well for everybody to watch. That is it for the News Daily. Make sure you subscribe, give the video a thumbs up, and if you want more videos, join us on Patreon. See you later.